Hello and welcome. I'm Lindsay Crane and these are my retro craft dreams. It is high time that I get around to another stash busting project. And in particular, I'm talking about my college stash from the early 2000s when I was obsessed with soft, fuzzy novelty yarn that's really awful to work with. But at the same time, I'm really determined to actually use it up and not just pawn it off on someone else. I spent the money, I'm gonna use it. Additionally, August 15th is Granny Square Day, so it is the perfect time to tackle a project I've had on my queue for at least 3 years for some of this yarn. This pattern comes from Women's Day Granny Squares. This is number 5. It is the Summer-Fall 1977 issue, and I'm going to be making this beautiful Posy Pillow top. And I'm going to be making it with some really awful, really fluffy yarn. We're gonna go over the yarn in just a minute. Some of it, I don't know what it is anymore. Some of it's a guess. Hi, buddy. But all of it is terrible. I am not very good or well practiced at granny squares, and I've never made one like this before, so I don't know how this is gonna go, and the yarn that I'm using is going to be a nightmare to frog, so I'm gonna have to just figure out a way around that. So can I get through these granny squares without having to frog and shred this fluffy yarn, or can I actually make a decent looking pillow? I don't know, we're gonna find out. This pattern calls for sport weight yarn, and that is not what I am using. So let's have a look at the awful novelty yarn from the early 2000s that I'm going to be attempting this pattern with. Welcome to Fluffy Yarn Town. What do we have here? We have Patons Allure in mink, and I have a skein, and I have probably 1.5 balls of that. I have Caron Bliss. This one is jade. I have 3.5 of that. These 3, I don't know the names of the colors, but I do believe they are also Caron Bliss. And they have actually been like made into something and frogged at least 2 or 3 times. The white is Moda Dea Aerie, color ecru. And this one, I don't know what it is. It does resemble the Aerie. I'm gonna see if I can find a colorway that matches, but it might be the same yarn as that. And then I have a Yarn Bee Cameo. Yep, 2005. Okay, so this pattern is for a sport weight yarn. This is super bulky yarn, but of course that's because it is so fluffy. Now, I'm not gonna be worried about how big this pillow ends up. I'm probably going to have to sew my own pillow and stuff it myself. So I'm just gonna worry about getting the stitches right. It calls for an F hook for the center, which is just way too small for this yarn. So I'm gonna try a couple of different hooks and see what I get the best results with. I think I'm gonna practice with this one since this is what I have the most of, besides the green, which I may need for the back of the pillow. That way, if I can't frog it, it's not gonna throw everything off, hopefully. So we're just gonna test it out and see how it goes. Chain 4, join with a slip stitch, chain 1, and work 8 single crochets. And now I have to find my first stitch so I can join them, and I can't actually see anything here. See, when I was in college, I was really good at feeling my stitches. I have lost that skill. The next round is going to be double crochet, and it looks like I'm doing 2 in each stitch. We're increasing from the 8 stitches to 16. If I can find the stitch. I'm gonna do this round and then I'm going to try it with the next size hook just so I can determine the best one for this. Yeah? Does that sound like a plan? This is the one I did in the H hook, the 5mm. I did this one in the next size up, 5.5mm, an I hook, and they are exactly the same size somehow. I don't know. However, this center hole is much bigger on this. I don't use magic circle. I do prefer to chain and close. And I do sometimes use a smaller hook to do that. So I decided to use the smaller hook, and I made my orange circle. However, the orange is somehow much bulkier than this one. Even though they pretty much look the same, it's just kind of, it doesn't squish quite as much. So I ended up going back and forth with my hooks. I used the little hook for the center. I used the bigger hook for the round of single crochets so that I could find those stitches, because when I tried it in the smaller hook, I could not see those stitches. But then I did not like how big the double crochets were in the 5.5 millimeter, so I switched back to the 5 millimeter for the double crochets. So I switched back and forth between hook sizes. So there's my first center. And now I need to probably do a little bit of testing to find the right size hook for the petals, although those are elongated manually, so the hook size probably doesn't matter quite as much for that part. I've been going over the directions on this. I'm a little confused. I don't know if I'm going to end up doing this right. I don't really understand what happens with this first loop. My knot is up here. That doesn't seem right. I'm very confused by this instruction. That's only 10. So I'm missing something somewhere. All right, I need to come clean. My ability to interpret instructions is still a work in progress, and it can take me some time to puzzle some things out. Now, this one had a couple of confusing bits, and I'm still not sure if I'm doing it as instructed, but I did find a way that works. Over here, the first instruction is to place the slip loop on hook. Okay, so we've got a slip knot, and it is on my hook. And then it says yarn over hook. So I do that, but it just, flips my knot around. So that's where I'm confused, because there's supposed to be a yarn over before you go between posts of the double crochet. And I don't know if I'm misinterpreting or if there's an error here, but that just doesn't work. So what I ended up doing, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I decided to just attach my yarn like so. And then I'm pulling that first loop all the way up to my desired height. And then I can continue with that first yarn over and going into the stitch to pull up my next loop. So there are 16 petals in all. Yarn over, go in your stitch, pull up a loop, and pull that loop up to your desired height. That's 1. And we're doing that a total of 5 times. Insert into the same stitch. That's 2. Yarn over. I am holding it in place because it does like to lose height when I go in. So after each one, we are going to get them all to be the same height. Now that should have been 5, and I can check by making sure there are 11 loops on my hook. 10, 11. Then at the same height, we're going to yarn over, pull through everything, yarn over, slip to close, and then chain 2. And that is 1 petal. And then once you have reached the final petal, you do your last chain 2. And then you're gonna find, somehow, the top of your first petal and slip to join. There we go. I don't know what I did, but I swear this was 2 inches for the loops. And it is so much smaller than this one that I actually measured regularly. So I'm gonna have to redo one of these. I do think I managed to get them all the same size. So that's satisfying. It's giving like Gerber Daisy vibes. I would have loved this at the time when I bought this yarn. G is the green, A is the off-white. So with F hook, which is the smaller hook, join G in a chain 2 space. There we go, we have a paperweight. Okay, so I'm gonna need that, and I'm gonna need this. I will do a slip knot and find a chain 2 space and join. Okay, chain 3. I have a cat on my left arm, so this is going to be a little awkward. So we do another double crochet in the same space. 2, 3. Then we do 2 triples. So 1, 2. It's been a long time since I've done a triple crochet. And then 2 more double crochet. Okay. So there's 1 leaf. Working off last 2 loops of last double crochet with A, carry G loosely in back of work and cover it with next A stitches. So I need to back off my last 2 loops, so we'll just redo this double crochet. And then we're switching to the white for these last 2 loops. Come here, I need tension. There. And then this gets carried over, so we're gonna do 3 granny clusters basically with this inside. That's 1 granny cluster, and it does not say to chain in between them. Granny cluster number 3. And actually, before I finish that one out, I'm gonna make sure that it's loose enough here. There we go. And then we're gonna switch back to the green to finish that stitch. So now on the green, covering the white, we need a pair of doubles. Oops, hang on. Caught some fluff. A pair of triples. And then 2 more doubles. And then back to the white to finish this stitch for 3 more granny clusters. It's actually pretty easy, other than trying to make sure that the fluffy bits of my yarn stay on the side I want them. Ending with A, slip stitch in top of chain 3, fasten off G. Okay. Round 5. With A, slip stitch in space between posts of first 2 green stitches. So right there. Chain 3, which counts as a double crochet. Double crochet in same space. 2 double crochet between G, double crochet 4 times. 2, 2, 2, 2. 2 double crochet between last G stitch and first group. Okay, so then 2 more here, and then 3 double crochet between groups twice. Okay, so double crochets between green stitches, granny clusters between granny clusters. So there is no chain or like corner stitch, which is kind of interesting to note. So we got 2 more here. Now we're doing another granny cluster, and then 2 in here. and repeat. So there's no corner chain, so everything's looking really round. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it is looking a little more leafy. Round 5 is done. I have joined with a slip stitch. It's looking really pretty. Round 6, slip stitch in next double crochet and in next space between double crochet. So slip and then slip. Now we chain 3 and then double crochet in the same space. 2 double crochet here. Okay. And then 2 double crochet between double crochet of center pair. Okay. Here. Okay. And then we're going between pairs. So 1, 2, 3. 3 double crochet between last pair and group. 3 double crochet between groups and in space before the next pair. All right, so 1 here, because that's a pair. Continue around with square in this manner, ending with a 2 double crochet between first pairs of starting corner. Hi, buddy. So basically we're doing 2 double crochet around the leaves and granny clusters on the sides. Yes, buddy, you can't sit there. Friends, this is the completed square. This is what the completed square looks like, and it is beautiful. Unfortunately, I have 3 more of these to make and only 31 grams left out of my 50-gram ball. So this took 20 grams of yarn, and I only have enough to do 1 more square. So what I'm gonna have to do is unravel the last round and do the last round of each square in a different color. Now I'm trying to decide what color. I have a lot of brown and I have a lot of green, but this is what the square would look like. I just can't keep it. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. I wonder, since these squares are so big, if I could just skip round 6 and go straight to the joining. There'd be less space between flowers, but I don't think I mind that. And the pillow, I'm already gonna have to custom make the pillow form because the gauge on this yarn is way bigger than the pattern calls for, because the white looks so pretty and I hate to break it up. So that has me back up to 40 grams. So the first 2 rounds only used 10 grams. So I definitely have enough to do 2 rounds. Yeah, I think I should be able to just skip round 6 and join it. So let's see what the join round looks like. Literally just neatly overcast the squares together to form a large square. Problem solved. I'm just gonna make smaller squares and leave off round 6 completely, and then I can still have a nice all white pillow, and that pleases me. I have this much white left, which comes out to, I think it was 6 ounces. So I'm really hoping that there's enough that I can use the white to join the front to the back. It might not be enough, but I'm gonna try it. Fortunately, the white is not too difficult to frog. So I am going to do the overcast stitch to seam the 4 squares together as the instructions say. That's going to use far less yarn than any other joining method I could have. It might then go far enough, but that does mean that I'm not gonna wanna cut a piece off to sew with. because I want like one continuous piece left over. So I'm gonna have to do some finagling with my seam, but that's a me problem. I have finished my back panel. After much back and forth, I did decide to just do a solid green square. If I don't have enough white to seam them up, I will of course seam them with the green. And if I use the green, I could do a decorative edge. The pattern has like a scallop edging to it. I will likely have to leave that off if I'm able to use the white. I might put it on with the green, but it's not like it's really gonna show up, so I might not bother. The back is slightly larger than the front. If I had more white, I would actually go around the front and then join the front to the back. We'll see how far this actually goes. And oh my gosh, it's so pretty! To be clear, in the instructions, this is just a pillow top. There are no instructions for a back or joining front to back. The instruction is to tack it onto the front of an existing pillow, and that's why it is a pillow top. But I'm not doing that. I'm making an entire pillow. And I don't think that's gonna be enough. Well, I think I have my answer. That's how much I have left after reaching the halfway mark. Maybe I should just do a border in green, since the green has to be there anyway. Because I do think, yeah, I needed an edge to this because it is slightly too small. But before I do that, we will go ahead and have a look at my fabric choices for the pillow that goes underneath. I don't actually keep a lot of solid color fabric in my stash, so I have 3 choices: yellow, green, or brown. And none of them can really be seen, which I guess is a good thing. I don't really want to see it. But the brown and the green are they just read as shadow. The yellow, you would actually notice that it's a color. We are going to use the green for the back, and then I am going to actually use the yellow on the other side behind the flowers. I love it. I absolutely love it. I do still want to find some white. So I didn't actually completely close off and bury my end here. I've actually got a pin holding my last stitch in place with an extra long tail so that if I find more white, I can unravel it and add some more white and maybe still have enough green to close it up with the green. So this is all the white that I have left. Not only was it not enough to do a single crochet border, that only went halfway around. I also tried to just do a simple chain stitch edging, which I hoped being just a chain stitch would go a lot further. It went 2/3 of the way around. It was really pretty though, and I did get some footage. So this is what it could look like if I had a little bit more white left over. So I do think I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for some more of this yarn. So much for a stash buster. Like, there's still so much of this left. And, you know, I barely touched the orange because I only used it for the centers. So I am actually making more flowers. And I'm hoping that I will have enough green to do leaves on those flowers. So my plan is now to use up the rest of this yarn and make as many flowers as I can. And then I'll just set them aside until one day maybe I can find another suitable yarn to use as a background color. I won't be able to make an identical pillow, but I should be able to make a coordinating one. And then once those flowers are done, this yarn will be busted. And that is the goal. But at the moment, is the stash busted? No. But it is well on its way. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you enjoyed these granny squares, and let me know down below if you are participating in Granny Square Day and what kind of granny squares you are making. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye. I'm going to be making... I don't know if you're getting his face or not. There's a face right here. That's what I get for having my camera over a table. Buddy, buddy, buddy.